Hey, what's up? It's Ben Nathan, the Benchman. Please allow me to convince you today that your validation comes from God and God alone. So we see in Daniel 3 that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up this big idol statue and he was requiring people to bow down to it. Yet it did say that there were three Jewish men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that were totally unwilling to bow down to it. It says in verse 6 of Daniel 3 that the king said, "Whoever does not fall down and worship immediately will be thrown into a blazing furnace, a burning fire." Yet they were not willing to do it. When some astrologers made the king aware of this, they were basically snitching on these three Jewish men. He says in verse 15 to these three men, "If you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be immediately thrown into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to deliver you from my hand?" But they say in verses 16 through 17, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God who we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will never bow down to the idol that you have created." So ultimately, he does throw them in there. And it says in verse 22 that the king's command was so urgent in the furnace, the fire was so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers, the king's own soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They died because of this. Now God delivers them from this fiery furnace. And it says in verse 28 that King Nebuchadnezzar praised the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and that he ordered other people to do the same. And he had influence as the king. So many people resulted in praising God that day. The astrologers sought the validation of the king, but these three Jewish men sought the growth of the king. When the astrologers gave their blind approval to the king, it ended up killing some of the king's most loyal soldiers, and these three Jewish men are almost killed them, and they were really loyal to the king too. So when you blindly approve of people without rebuking them when they need it, you're causing them to destroy themselves. Now, by believing in God and God alone, these three men got themselves burned. Sometimes we get burned in life for our faith, but it is totally worth it because by defying him, they helped the king to grow. They wrestled with him, they defied him. I'm sure nobody else in his kingdom was willing to do it, and by defying him, they caused his shouting of orders that resulted in death to turn to shouts of praise. The astrologers enabled him by validating him, but the Jews truly changed him by righteously rebuking him. For this reason, do not seek unwarranted validation and do not give it to others. Seek God first and God alone. God bless you.